Hi, my name is Chris Coe. I'm from San Diego. I guess I have 10 questions I'm going to try to answer for you about breaking. First off, what got me into breaking and when? I first got into breaking probably back in mid 2019. I've always been a big card collector going back to a kid where I used to collect late 70s and early 80s baseball. So I sort of got back into collecting, but really breaking by accident. I work in video games and I was researching new models and what we call live operations, which is essentially like sales and promotion of events in our games to generate either people to play more or spend more. So the games that we do are sports games, for example, Madden Mobile or NBA, and we effectively have something similar where we actually have packs, virtual packs in game that people rip to get key players to upgrade their teams and compete. And so I remember getting one day an email that I'm on from Just Collect, and it mentioned their breaking site, Vintage Breaking. So I decided to watch and realized that wow, this stuff is pretty similar to what we do in gaming, but the VB added some twist to it on how to do promotions, i.e., all the bonuses. And then what they call dippage, that might be really applicable to what we do. So I decided to do a few breaks for research purposes, and I did it and I forgot about it. But a few days later, I got a package in the mail that I did not immediately recognize. So I opened it up and it was a Ricky Jim Palmer card that I won in a bonus. And that's the moment it hit me that brought me back to collecting as a kid. I mean, the whole surprise and delight of seeing something you really wanted and wasn't expecting, i.e., opening up a pack, opening up a package that you got. And so from then, immediately I was hooked. I started to watch daily, and I would often try to figure out ways to maximize my spend to get into as many bonuses to win the bonus cards. I've been watching since, so this has been probably 2+ years. In terms of what types of breaks do I enjoy that I'm looking for, I did go into a bunch of other breakers to understand the differences in what they were doing versus some other breakers. And I tried some like Leighton Sports, Jaspys, and I noticed a pretty big difference between the breakers. They range from all about ripping boxes super fast, modern ones just rip, 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 rip. Some that were in between that, open packs and talked a little bit. And then there were slower breakers, but they focused heavily on the community, talking to the folks in the chat, talk about random things. So for me, that was my thing. The community focused breakers is more of the thing that I enjoy. I like to talk to other folks, hang out with other people who have similar interests, learn new things, and just kind of hang out. It's almost content for me. It's no different for me than watching TV. And it's also largely because I prefer vintage over modern, and most of the breakers tend to be all modern. In terms of the breaks I like to watch, I do still do a lot of Jaspys, just because I like that they have these things called hit randoms, which is something very big on vintage breaks as well, but not too many breakers do it. I like hit randoms because you know exactly what you're potentially getting for the price point, and you can figure out what you're comfortable with. They're all good cards. It's just a question: do you get the big hit, or do you get something that's maybe not that great, but at least you made some good money or didn't lose as much money. In terms of how did I choose the breakers that I use, again, like I mentioned previously, I chose vintage breaks largely because of the community. There are really smart, knowledgeable people in the community, and they're just frankly nice. It's a good group of people that are welcoming. No one gives you a hard time. Everyone's happy to educate, chat, and so for me, that's my speed, and that's what I quite enjoy. In terms of the best pull ever, probably between two things. My best pull is probably my one-to-one flawless Kyler Murray rookie card that I got. It was a rookie patch that had the NFL logo on it, or between my flawless rookie Josh Allen rookie patch auto out of 10 that I ultimately got graded and came back at PSA 1010, was able to sell for a nice amount of money. In terms of worst pull ever, I have many, but I think the one that always sticks to me is it's probably the Adam Vinatieri auto that I got from a flawless break. And the reason why is we kind of have this running joke with J5 on getting lots of kickers and punters from the 80s Topps football product, and that we should eventually do a kicker punter hit random. And literally before we broke that case, we joked about, oh God, how awful would that be if we actually got a kicker? And thinking no way Panini would ever put a kicker in a pretty expensive product like flawless. and lo and behold, I get the kicker. So that's probably my worst, but it's also my most memorable to some degree, just because it's a funny thing that happened. In terms of something I'm comfortable showing off that I pulled, well, I sold most of the things that I pulled that I was really excited to get. But in terms of like things that I've gotten recently over the last 2 years since I got back to collecting, probably has to be my two Ty Cobb portraits, the T206s. And so here, I'll show it to you. See, here you go. And then the thing I really like about this red one is because it has a rare back Tolstoy. And as folks in the community know, I love collecting the rare backs. But I just love these two because they're just iconic and very simple, beautiful, bright colors. In terms of what's something you wish more breakers should do or offer, this is more my personal interest, but I really wish breakers would offer more variety versus just modern or vintage. I think that would really help bring in a bigger group of people. I also think there's a big opportunity for breakers to be more open about the floor and ceiling on hit random. So what I mean by that is if a hit random costs $100 a spot, what's the worst card you can get and what's that value in terms of what's your loss that you may hit, and as well as the ceiling, so potentially what you're potentially risking with your $100. If I can only keep one thing, and a favorite card or something, a vice, a drink, a car, I would say without a doubt it's probably my 52 Robinson. While it's a PSA 3, it's not high graded, but I love it, and something that I always love. It's something that I think is iconic on so many levels. He was iconic as a player. He was a pioneer in breaking down the racial barrier. And it's just someone that is huge in as a cultural icon. And you can tell behind me, I have a couple portraits and paintings, and also have Willie Mays. But he is by far the one card I would keep in all my collection. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and thanks for listening.